there's going to be a new team forming that's going to expand from marketing ops and Martech. Imagine this new dispatch layer that's thinking about the systems, the data, the AI, the architecture, and campaign activation for the entire marketing org holistically. We think there are going to be pods around objectives that are then working functionally with this dispatch layer. You have one pod that's all about repeat selling and next best purchase. That's that whole pod's mission. They work alongside with this dispatch layer to actually send campaigns.
Lifecycle folks are already working in very much blurred silos of product marketing, ops, data. Lifecycle folks are kind of primed to thrive here.
An agentic world where so many agents are supporting the marketing function, doing different roles. That's going to be the special sauce. It's having that empathy. I'm going to bet that agents will never have empathy like a human can.
What's up, everyone? Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with Rebecca Corliss, VP of Marketing at GrowthLoop. Rebecca's the former VP of Marketing at VergeSense and Owl Labs, and she spent 8 years at HubSpot, starting as one of the first 50 employees and growing into a director of marketing role. In this episode, we explore the future agentic marketing org and the rise of the marketing dispatch layer. Rebecca makes the case why channel specialists are fading, but lifecycle marketers are thriving. And we explore the future of marketing where budgets are shifting to compute and machine customers are emerging. All that and a bunch more stuff after a super quick word from one of our awesome partners. This episode is brought to you by MoEngage and their new Warehouse Native CEP, which revolutionizes the way data should be seamlessly fetched, analyzed, and activated. Now you can use MoEngage Cloud Data Sync to sync your warehouse data with MoEngage and use it to segment audiences or personalize messages without any development. Just set and forget. Use MoEngage warehouse segments to create segments on your warehouse data without moving underlying events, properties, or proprietary segmentation logic, and activate them directly on MoEngage. Using warehouse data analytics, brands can also directly generate insights from their warehouse data. Your long search solution for seamless data sync, smarter segmentation, dynamic personalization, and delightful customer experiences ends here. Warehouse Native CEP from MoEngage, making it easy, smart, and secure. Learn more at moengage.com. Rebecca, thank you so much for your time today. Really excited to chat.
Phil, I have been looking forward to this since our webinar we did a couple months ago where I got to host you as a presenter. So I hope I did an okay job because the tables have turned. I'm ready. This should be good.
You were awesome. It was a super fun conversation. We got to chat with Chris probably a couple months ago now by the time this comes out. And the topic that we kind of bounced around for you, Rebecca, is like exploring what the future of marketing orgs looks like in a couple of years when we all run on AI agents. But you also wanted to kind of build the case for why lifecycle marketers might be best positioned to thrive in this future. So excited to chat with you about this. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'll be good.
Let's jump right in. So, this whole agentic marketing org. So if you look into the future, Rebecca, what does it kind of look like, do you think? Obviously, today we're starting to see org charts full of AI agents. How credible is that or how viable is that? I don't know, but I do know that we are definitely looking at probably leaner teams in the future and agents helping out a lot. So maybe you could riff a little bit on what you think the future is going to look like a few years, maybe even 5 years down the road. What are the makeup of those teams and how is it going to be different than today?
Yeah, you got it. So first, the point of view I like to bring into this. We love talking about agents, and I think we need to start talking about how organizations will shift to actually make sure we can leverage agents to the degree we need, right? And the organization is going to look a bit different, and there's a few casting characters that I think are going to be really key. So when I think of the marketing org of the future, and I think it's not very distant future. I think 2026 we'll start seeing some organizations that are already starting to look like this or testing this framework. I see
Mhm.
3 layers. So put yourself in context of maybe a large enterprise company, maybe it's 500 million revenue up, something like that. It's a larger org. First, you'll have your marketing leadership. That's typical. That's what we've seen. What might be different, the new partners in crime to the CMO. The CMO of this org is going to be really fluent and know how to work with the data organization. Maybe that CMO has a data leader on his or her team but in the very least, this person is working with the data officer at a degree that maybe he or she hasn't before. And this is going to be really key. And I don't think a place that a lot of CMOs have flexed. CMOs have really flexed their analytics chops recently as they're thinking about ROI. Now it's the chance to flex their technical chops and their data systems and architecture chops. That's going to be really key. So that's
Hmm.
the marketing leadership level. I also think there's going to be another counterpart, which is an AI strategy individual who's going to be thinking about how AI is leveraged across the organization. So that's one. Next one, I think there's gonna be a new team forming, a new part of this organization that's gonna expand from marketing ops and Martech. Um, GrowthLoop is affectionately calling it the dispatch team. I don't know what we'll call it. We're calling it dispatch. We think it's gonna look
Okay.
like that. So imagine now this new dispatch layer that is the group that's thinking about the systems, the data, the AI, the architecture, and campaign activation for the entire marketing arc holistically. It's really
Mm,
interesting you think about it. And the reason why we call it dispatch affectionately is because we think this group is going to be accountable for how all marketing communications will go out in a way that's really effective for all of the marketing objectives that are being fulfilled. So there's
mhm,
that. The next group, and the reason why I thought of this at an enterprise level, because I think this will be absolutely applicable. We think there are going to be business units or pods around objectives that are then working functionally with this dispatch layer. And this is what I think is going to be really exciting because you can imagine maybe you're a retail organization and you have one pod that's all about repeat selling and next best purchase and things like that. That's that whole pod's mission. This is gonna be the group that's going to be the creative. They're gonna think about the customer journey. They're gonna think about, how to present products in a really effective way, the full customer journey there, and then they work alongside with this dispatch layer to actually send campaigns, AI automated campaigns, at scale to achieve it. And then you might, if you're depending on the size of your org, have actually multiple pods that are all working with that dispatch layer. So that's what we see, and we think the real shift is gonna be in that dispatch layer, and there's gonna be a lot of investment in that in order to make it successful for the full group.
Yeah, walk us through the dispatch layer. Like, who makes up that team? Is it a layer that's cross-functional a little bit? Like, you've got data privacy people in there, data strategy, data engineers, but also some of the marketing ops folks, MarTech folks might migrate and kind of be the translation layer there. Walk us through
Yeah.
that.
I wonder if some of the folks that historically have been in a data org outside of marketing might come on over. I think that could be really, really powerful. I mean, think about it. We think of data investment. If you have AI powered marketing at this level with agents doing that, the data cloud usage and the compute usage is going to be really high. You want some real experts over there, so that's really important. So there's likely someone who's thinking about security. There's likely someone thinking about I don't know what we'll call the role, but the traffic cop, we'll go with
mm,
traffic cop, who is
mhm,
thinking about, like, I'll give you an example. In this pod world, I bet we'll need to be really sophisticated around what campaign is each customer receiving, which business unit is serving this particular customer, and when this customer could actually effectively be a part of any business unit's campaign. Who decides that? I think that's going to exist at the dispatch layer based off
yeah,
of what serves this customer best. This customer should actually be part of this campaign and this outcome. So interesting to think about. Um, Others, privacy. I think there's going to be the data individual is going to be really crucial, likely multiple. I think some of the coordination that's going to happen between the pods and the dispatch layer is going to be okay. What goals are you looking to achieve? That's clear. What data do you need to achieve that goal? What do you not know about your customer now? And how can we invest in getting that understanding in order to serve the customer best and serve your campaign, your outcome best? So that's going to be an important role too.
Is that
yeah.
all made up of humans or is part of the dispatch layer agents also?
I am thinking, believe it or not, as I've described all of this, I've been thinking of it from a human mindset. The
Mm,
humans that are orchestrating all of this. I believe that a lot of the tasks and enablement will be agent led and agent driven. And the role I see in this conversation right now are how are the humans going to organize in order to make this future possible? because that's a lot of what's in the marketing team's control right now and marketing leadership's control. It's the leveling up we're doing as teams, as people to make this agentic future possible, effective, and driving the outcomes we want.
Super cool. What advice do you have for folks that are listening to you right now that are just like, I want to work in that dispatch layer? I think it's a AI resistant or like a good way to future proof my job in the next like 5 years or so. Maybe they're sitting in marketing ops today and they're listening to you saying like, I kind of already do this in my job in a way, or I would love to raise my hand up and be part of that. What advice do you have for those folks to like get that seed off the ground in their own companies?
Yeah, I have 2 recommendations. One, I'll say is the generalized, just continue to be AI curious. There's so much we don't know yet. So
Yeah.
much we don't know. Tools that are being built that aren't good enough yet, that need to be better. Like, there's a lot of movement that's happening here. So that's one side. Um, the other side is going to be understand data, data architecture, the data cloud, all of that, which is something that I won't say all, but a lot of marketing ops group will delegate and just say, "Oh, that's the data teams over there responsibility. I just connect to it." Don't just connect to it, understand it. Get that same judgment because I hope and expect that judgment to live in the marketing org as well. I hope the CMO gets that judgment as well. I'll give an example of a easy issue that could come up, or maybe a shortcoming that needs to be thought of. As you're investing in marketing technology, are you doing it in a way where data is siloed and thus AI is siloed, or are you doing it in a way that data is combined and thus AI is holistic? That is key. And that is something that is not universally understood by CMOs, and I would say not universally understood by marketing ops and marketing tech. We love our tools. Now we need to think in infrastructure.
I love it. I love it. I One thing though that I'd love to get your take on too, because I've been thinking about it. In 5 years though, what would you say to the people that are going to say most of the org structure is going to be AI agents talking to each other? You know, is there does is there still room? Like, is the patch layer going to be like one person? You know, or do you feel like this whole network of AI agents is not really viable, and like that's not realistic?
Yeah, I'm very focused on the human judgment. I think that's the unknown. Like, as AI and agents get more intelligent and can work more autonomously, what new human judgment will be layered on top that will be necessary? That's the open question we have.
Hmm.
I Of the information I have today, my belief is that human judgment will always be crucial. I also think about in the dispatch layer, the collaboration that's going to be necessary across these pods in this dispatch layer, and thinking about, like, again, bringing judgment to how are these pods served best and how do we meet these objectives. So I think that's key. I bet also by seeing as things evolve, as something no longer needs, I will say, as much human judgment, likely is the right point in which it can become led by agentic technology or an agent. So I believe that as a principle. I also believe as data gets better, it will then allow agents to take those roles and be more autonomous. So,
Yeah.
for example, I'll that example I gave before, that traffic cop. Maybe that traffic cop could be an agent. That makes sense. Or is that too high stakes of a decision that you wouldn't want to make autonomous by an agent? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it depends on, again, the data that we have and the frequency in which it's getting it right, the agent in this case getting it right, to then earn the right to say, you are now doing this autonomously and aren't necessarily being overseen by a human consistently, or you're ready to replace a human acting in that function.
Super cool. Love your thoughts there, Rebecca. The dispatch layer is really interesting. I'm curious to ask you where the lifecycle marketer kind of lives in the future role of the lifecycle marketer, potentially in this dispatch layer. So these folks are super close to my heart. I've worn this hat and been in those shoes many times in my career. I think there's a ton of overlap with marketing ops pros, but still kind of focused on a different part of the funnel, if you will, or different use cases. The role of the lifecycle pro to me has never been about the person pressing send on emails or doing just the execution of campaigns. Like their strength to me has always been being this like empathy barometer for customers. Everything we do in Lifecycle is to um, deeply understand like what value looks like for ideal customer profiles, and the future org that you're kind of painting here with this dispatch layer, it's going to have a ton of blurring of the collaboration lines like you said. I think lifecycle folks are already working in very much blurred silos of product marketing, ops, data, and they also jump between different channels like email, push, on-site, direct mail, and they're not just focused on like activation and acquisition and retention. They're focused on all of those things, the full funnel journey. So this idea of like aligning agents to specific parts of that engine, which you kind of talked about in your previous answer, it feels super important, and lifecycle folks are kind of primed to thrive here. I'm curious if you agree, and why do you have lifecycle folks as kind of like on your list of potentially being one of the most important roles in the future of the agentic marketing org?
Yeah, I completely agree. I also love life cycle marketers. I love that function. I love that is such a featured role right now in our era of marketing, and it's for all the reasons that you just stated. I mean, think about just in general what makes a great marketer. A great marketer is customer obsessed, understands, is empathetic, looks to be a student of the customer journey, and thinks customer first. I mean, that is key for lifecycle marketers. Any marketer who does that is going to be set up for success. So that's key here. And then when I think of an agentic world where so many agents are supporting the marketing function, doing different roles, that's going to be the special sauce that the human marketer contributes. I believe it. That's going to be the special sauce. It's having that empathy. I'm waiting to see agents have empathy, but I'm gonna bet that agents will never have empathy like a human can. That is a human quality we should be really proud of. And so with that, I think lifecycle marketers in this new org will go two different ways. I think, and it depends, I would say, on call it technical prowess and passion, if you will. Some, the technical ones, the data centric ones, very well could go to the dispatch layer, and they might be thinking with this customer centric mindset. How do campaigns get activated in a way that support the customer? And I believe they will bring, if it supports the customer, it will support the business objectives, like in that sequence. That is the way everyone wins. So I believe that. I think the other direction is lifecycle marketers taking on new roles within these pods and these business units. They're the ones thinking about what is the full customer journey that we want to create. I believe it's the lifecycle marketer with an AI mindset that's going to make one-to-one marketing possible. This is the one that's going to think about what is the ultimate experience I can create for each individual who's receiving marketing these campaigns, and how can it's systems thinking. How can I decide and use the technology I have to create these campaigns that are at a one-to-one scale and still done in a way that feels authentic to the person? Oh my goodness, that will be amazing. I think it's gonna come from the lifecycle marketer who really is AI curious to bring us there, and then obviously the continued evolution of technology to make it come to life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what I've always loved about life cycle is this idea of like there's these different stages that customers go through in their relationship with your business, and life cycle marketers are laser focused on delivering value at each stage and
Yes.
trying to get them to the next level. How do you do that? That is through personalization. That is through the right message, the right context, the right person, the right time, the right offer. And it for me, like, it doesn't matter what the technology of the day is, the life cycle marketer is the one trying to figure out how to deliver that value. I think that's why they're really well positioned too. I really agree with that. I also think too, life cycle marketers can, you can start to play with where do AI agents fit in. And I was just thinking that it could really depend on the level of empathy and human judgment that you need at each touch point. You know, because sometimes, there's pretty straightforward things. Like customer signed up, they need instructions on how to onboard. You know, customer is mad, they need a refund. Like those are very like black and white. But there are certain things where like, customers might be in an extenuating circumstance. It might be a people problem. It might be, some sort of time where there's a perfect opportunity to build a really great relationship with the brand. This is where a human is needed, So I just
Yes.
kind of does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think about like take another part that we'll see soon, content creation, uh,
Yep.
generative AI to create content, and then in this world where we also want authenticity. Talk about a challenge, creating content for one-to-one through generative AI and creating authenticity.
Yeah.
It's the life cycle marketer type individual who's thinking about, I love how you said that, value at every point of the journey that I think will have the right heart. Dare I say heart in a conversation about agentic technology, have the right heart to make that come to life in a way that will match the customer experience and truly benefit them. So again, if the customer wins, the business wins, and that's why we should have that order of thinking as we build this together.
Yeah, we grew up in a time, Rebecca, where like marketing specialists were all the talk, right? And you spent 8 years at HubSpot. You just said you were one of the first 50 folks at HubSpot. And before your leadership role, you worked across customer marketing, advocacy, content marketing, lead generation. Like you got a taste of all these different hats. You got to specialize in some of these different roles. You've seen the marketing org where the specialists, quote unquote, ruled. Like people weren't like talking about the T-shaped marketer, right? Like everyone loved someone who was an expert in one channel or really deep in one channel. Do you think that we're already in the middle of a transformation where agentic systems are commoditizing channel execution and the breadth of the lifecycle pro is kind of their superpower and their ability to future proof their career?
Yes, I think there will be a handful of specialist roles that and individuals in those specialist roles that are gonna need to do some soul searching and some seeking because I think there's gonna be a lot of change. Because think about what is an agent? A specialist often is a
Mhm.
specialist role very frequently.
Yeah.
And so, I think and that's a great thing, just to be clear, that's a great thing. That's one of the pieces that allows agents to be autonomous and serve needs and drive the outcomes we want, so that's a great thing. Then take specialist humans. Well, will specialist humans work with specialist agents? I don't know. I think there will be some of the roles, the specialist roles that I think will need to change or evolve, or the folks in those roles will need to change and evolve. One is the channel specialist. I get really curious. I mean, think about it. Like, let's take good old, ooh, I'm going to be careful. I love you, paid marketers. I love you, performance marketers. Uh, let's take that role. I'm wondering what it's gonna look like in this world of this new agentic org, because think about it. It's not the game is not now how to optimize LinkedIn. I'm making this up in a B2B context, LinkedIn. The game is not to optimize LinkedIn. It's to say, Phil is going to get communication on LinkedIn only in these circumstances, only when he is in this cycle of his buyer's journey, only when he needs this offer, only that. So LinkedIn is like the last piece of the I'm thinking of it as a one-to-one marketing context, a one-to-one marketing puzzle. I also wonder, I mean, one of my hypotheses is, are we actually gonna start getting the best channel optimization ever when you're only using a channel
Hmm.
when it serves the person and when they need it? I mean, that is gonna drive some of the best ROI you can see, right? So that's really interesting too. So paint this picture here. Okay, the performance marketer's role now, so much about optimizing campaigns and seeing impact at the campaign level. Now it's not at the campaign level, it's at the user level. So I'm doing this to be thought provoking. So I wonder now, what will that person do? Will they do something different? Will they lean into a different skill set they have? Maybe again, the strategic side of them, perhaps to think more holistically in a campaign orchestration standpoint, agnostic to the channel or tool that is seeing it through.
Yeah, such
Yeah.
a good point. I feel like, and I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone who is maybe a performance marketer, but you could put like email marketers in that bucket, like content marketers also. And like we hear this a lot. Folks will say, you know, think deeply about your current channel specialization role and think about like what else could you be doing to be more upper level, like strategic layer? And it's easy to say, like, think less about the execution and think more about the strategy and how you can orchestrate agents versus being the tactical, like, executional person. But I feel like part of that is easy to say, like telling someone to be less execution and be more strategy. Like when you tell folks to think deeply about their current channel specialist role, what does that look like to you to move a layer up and think more about strategy? Like how can people put that, like give us some practical like, ideas there?
Sure. I'll tease my profession a little bit more, as and someone who has fallen fault for what I'm about to say many times. Let's give an example. If you run your campaigns and you think exclusively in numbers, how many clicks, how many conversions, how many opportunities, and that is it, that is your hint you're not doing it yet. You are only thinking at the granular metric level. I would
Mhm.
say,
Mhm.
okay, go deeper. Now let's think about the human. What is the experience of someone who's at that conversion point? What are they thinking, feeling, doing, needing? Uh, Starting to flex that thinking is gonna be a good first step. You're getting to the human side of it versus just the conversion, the click. And I have been there. I've said, "Oh, I'm so proud, 100,000 visits, hooray." What does that mean?
Yep.
What is the actual human experience they've had? So that's a big one. And then I think the other thing is, maybe it's cliche or maybe it's basics. Be curious. Be really curious and be curious to understand the motivations, pains. Hang out with some product marketers. They're going to have a fantastic role in this new
Yeah.
world. Hang out with your product marketers, the ones that are often so customer obsessed from that perspective. They know their personas well. Hang out with them and start blending that thinking into the world of your campaign execution. That's another side. And then I would say be AI curious. It's easy to say be passive as we start using these new tools. Don't be passive. Say what tools can I use to replace what I'm doing, and push yourself. That's really crucial too. So those three areas I think will be helpful as you look to expand and grow into a more strategic mindset.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Knack. I have the amazing pleasure of chatting with some of the greatest minds in marketing operations, but you'd be shocked at how many of them have the same issues when it comes to their campaign creation process. They're dealing with things like scaling, personalization, keeping assets on brand, render testing emails, working in rigid templates, and worst of all, having to hand code emails. But many of the leaders in the space are using Knack to eliminate these headaches. Knack is a no-code email and landing page creation platform that covers initial campaign requests right until the sync to your marketing automation platform. Knack improves the whole campaign creation process by bringing the building, optimization, testing, collaboration, and also translation functions all in a single spot. So you don't have to jump around and coordinate feedback between a bunch of different people or wait on developers for very simple edits. Because at the end of the day, marketing ops folks want to focus on process and efficiency. Marketers want to focus on creativity, and Knack makes sure you get both and then some. Check them out at knack.com. That's KNAK, and tell them we sent you.
This episode is brought to you by Revenue Hero. You've invested thousands in your marketing funnel, targeted the right ICP, spent weeks A/B testing, and optimized for conversion at every step. Finally, a high-intent prospect fills out your demo form, and then nothing. Your nurtured lead sits in a queue while you chase them with, "How's Thursday at 2 p.m.?" Meanwhile, your competitor is already on a discovery call. That's not just frustrating, that's revenue walking away. With Revenue Hero, you can qualify, route, and book leads with the right rep, so your team can start real conversations right away. For the ops folks listening, Revenue Hero syncs meeting data to your CRM, auto credits no-shows, recalibrates when reps go on vacation, and has a ton of smart features you won't find anywhere else. If you're spending to drive demand, don't lose it at the last mile. Visit revenuehero.io/demo today.
I love that you shouted out product marketers there. We're recording this in August, and you probably saw the post to Rebecca. I think it was earlier this week where Dave Rigotti, he posted that his startup was promoting an AI agent to be their director of product marketing. And it got a ton of flack on LinkedIn, obviously, because a bunch of people were just like, what? Like product marketers, you're replacing that 100% with AI. And I agree with you, by the way, that like product marketers are really uniquely positioned in this future of AI resistance because, like you said, they're so close to the customer. But then you have these companies completely replacing the function, or at least what they understand of the function, with, some vanilla ChatGPT stuff. And I don't know exactly what Dave is doing there, but this whole concept of like figuring out what content should we be creating for this ICP. Give me a list of needs that I put on this homepage for this ICP. Like there is a ton of stuff that the PMM's role is a lot easier with AI, but I don't know if you saw that post, but curious to get your immediate reaction here.
I didn't see the post. I'm gonna be searching for it immediately
Yeah.
because I'm so curious now. I'm terribly skeptical,
Yeah.
and find it fascinating, but I'm terribly skeptical. And it's through that human element. Okay, so I'll think on the fly, everybody. I'm thinking on the fly. What could a product marketing agent do? Obviously, research, analyze, like look and find trends at a speed in which human can't. Absolutely. But and I think even give some real suggestions for what this means for the business. I believe that too, in a real quick way. I hope product marketers do that. But I don't know, really then understanding how things feel. I mean, think about it, like the motivation. We just did at GrowthLoop, we did a great workshop. We talked about our personas and we talked about the commercial motivations. We talked about the personal, emotional motivations, the career motivations. Will an agent get that to a degree? Again, through the empathy because we've been there and we felt that? I don't know. And I think that's the special sauce that makes the best marketing really effective that I think really strong product marketers do well.
Completely agree. I mean, there's always something missing, I think, when you look at work that's done completely AI, and you can't really put your finger on it. Like, I don't know if you all watch some of like the AI created videos or either on like TikTok or definitely AI written articles, but it's missing something. And, I do a lot of content creation, a lot of writing, and it's like to have AI do all the entire article, you can just tell that it's just not good. But if you have it be your thought partner and give you all of these options at every step, all of a sudden, you know, I think work becomes really, really good. And we're moving from having to do all this executional stuff to being more of like an artist curating a bunch of different things that are served up on a platter for us. And I think it's a really beautiful metaphor on how to use AI and human really well. Yeah, it goes beyond marketing. But
Yeah.
why don't we like talk a little bit about your past? And I see here too that you've had such an interesting journey. You were a marketing generalist at HubSpot, one of the first 50 employees, which is wild. I think it's I don't know how so many thousands and thousands of employees now. And you actually got some advice from Dharmesh Shah, and he said something about being a specialist in the moment. Um, what does that mean? What did that advice mean? And yeah, share a little bit about that story if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I feel so fortunate that I had HubSpot early in my career. I'm the luckiest duck there is. I got to give Mike Volpe a shout out. He's the one who gave me my shot. Thank you. Such the best foundation I could ever have. So I'm very grateful. So the story, HubSpot had a really cool tradition. I wonder if it's still there. I don't know, but a really cool tradition at the time called the Champions Dinner, and just a great cultural thing. Every month there would be a champion selected from each department for some accomplishment that that person had done, and it was great. It was cross functional across the whole company, so it'd be sales, customer success, engineering, etc. In marketing, I happened to be the marketing champion that month, which was an honor. And there was always an executive host, and this host was Dharmesh Shah. I don't even think he remembers this. It's always funny to think back to things that are so formative for you and probably just a moment in time for them. I wonder if this is one of those things for him.
Hmm.
So we're at this dinner, and it was a great conversation. And around the same time, I was a few years in at HubSpot at this time, and HubSpot was hiring so many specialists, incredible specialists. Specialists that have worked in functions at a depth that I had never touched in a way that I thought was amazing. And I'd always pride myself and I still do, as a generalist who is able to be flexible in her career, learn things quickly, go deep, and then have an impact. I love that. But I was meeting people who had a depth and expertise that was just at a depth I had not touched in some areas. So I thought that was interesting. So I decided to confide in Dharmesh, and I said, Dharmesh, will I have longevity at this company because I'm not a specialist? I mean, being a little vulnerable. Do I need to think about this? I wanted the growth moment. Do I need to think about this? And he said, Rebecca, you're going to be just fine because you're a specialist in the moment.
Mm.
And that's what you're good at. And I have held on to that forever. And he kind of took what I do naturally and what I appreciate in myself into almost a new mantra for me, which is how can you learn something to a depth necessary for impact and be flexible when necessary. And the key thing, and I'll bring this back to the conversation before, first principle thinking to think about the problem, the customer, the empathy, the strategy, thinking about that in order to make the area in which you're specializing, which you're going deep effective. And that's what I like to do. And I have a lot of gratitude that this just happens to be true about me. And I think it's true for a lot of other people in an area other can flex because when everything is changing like it is now, it's that I am grateful to say I think it's that type of mindset that's going to be really foundational in setting you up to, again, move into the future and see something completely different.
Love hearing that,
Hmm.
Rebecca. It's super cool advice. I feel like it's like we're talking about like what roles are going to be really AI resistant, but I feel like this is a great example that it's like it's not about the roles, it's about the people and the traits that you have specifically. And I think being a specialist in the moment is one of the most powerful traits or skills to future proof in the next few years. It was some of the flack that Daryl and I got from the episode that we did, just like what roles are going to be displaced, what are the ones that are really well super proofed. And one person responded saying, like, guys, it's not about the roles. Like, the roles don't matter. It's about the people that recognize stuff, are curious, and are just like, yeah, this isn't going to have wings in a couple of years. I need to spread this in a couple of different areas. And I feel like your answer, like, embodies that mentality.
Ah, thanks. I mean it. I mean it truly.
Let's talk about this sweet spot for lifecycle marketers because like it's really curious specifically for the lifecycle folks. Daryl, you just mentioned like they're focused on different funnel stages, but what AI will continue to struggle with is reconciling competing campaign priorities between channels, weighting trade-offs between other teams and other priorities that they have, weighting short-term versus long-term retention, ensuring brand is perfectly wrapped across like all the different channels. Is that where Lifecycle Pros kind of shine in this like agentic future that we kind of chat about a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the customer empathy and a systems thinking mindset, if
Yeah.
you will, that's going to set this for success. I think systems thinking is going to be really crucial. And again, I'm thinking of that utopia, one-to-one marketing. I believe in one-to-one marketing. It will happen, and that is the ultimate of customer journeys when you're achieving that. And so, what lifecycle marketers do well, other marketers can do well, and I think will be key is thinking about well, understanding the customer really, really well, understanding the next best action. This is a place where a lot of AI could be automated, should be automated. I don't know. It's interesting. I think at least should be recommended. I mean, again, that's a function at scale based off of everything you know about a customer. What is the ideal next best action that serves them and thus serves you? That's really key. Then there's the offer that you might offer that individual in order to serve that next best action. And then there's the channel. Those are the four things. I did not think of this. I need to give a shout out to Ian at Anthropology. I saw him speak at Snowflake Summit. He is fantastic. And when he spoke this, I said, absolutely. I ate it up and I said, what a great framework, those four steps. And so if you think about that, that is what's going to be the system that we'll need to develop. And then there's so many layers within it. Okay, of the channels, what's the channel of the offer of the content? How are you creating the content at scale? And I think that, again, the unique piece that we'll bring is the judgment to know that this is going to hit authentically with the customer in a way that's going to work well.
Completely agree. And then like also onto the business side, I think that lifecycle marketers are really well positioned to understand, well, how are these, if, at what rate are customers moving from one stage to the next? What value are they generating at each stage? And like, you know, where what are the where are the best places to invest? And I think that lifecycle marketers sometimes get a bad rap for just doing like email or something, or
Mhm.
you know. But I think that some of the best ones, and I work with some great ones, really do have like that business mindset on, and I think that that's yet another area that they can really kind of be in that sweet spot. Um, but how about we talk about the near and dear one to my heart, which is marketing ops. And
Mhm.
I'd love to hear like your take, Rebecca, on, are we, like marketing ops people, we're the ones that do the data. We often build automations within platforms, and hopefully are the ones heavily involved in implementing AI. Like, do you think that we're going to be the key strategists for marketing? I'll be a little sad if you don't say that, but let's be honest. Like, just tell us the truth. And how might the relationship between CMO and head of marketing ops evolve in this new like AI centric world that we're going to be living in?
Well, phew, I'm glad you're gonna like my answer, my authentic answer. Don't you worry, I have no disappointing news. No, I tease. So we talked a lot about lifecycle marketers. I think marketing ops, Martech are gonna be the other heroes of this story. And their chance, I would say if you think historically for marketing ops, they've often been seen as a support function in a way. Not every case, but many cases. They're not gonna be a support function anymore. They're gonna be a strategic driver. It's gonna be cool. I know, Daryl's like, "Yes," but it's gonna be cool, and the right foundation, the right systems thinking, the right rigor in that technicality. I think there's more technical skills to be developed as we related to data. Some folks will need to fill that gap, some folks might have it already, and I think the next level is, okay, I am not just providing tools, services, data so others can do their job. I'm creating an infrastructure so business unit pods can meet their objectives. And they are, I believe, will be earning the activation side. And actually, they will now be measuring if the business units together are fulfilling the objectives of the company. That's a big deal. So you can now see them working up, working down. It's not just reporting on progress, it's actually accountability, and they will have a big slice of that accountability based off of their system being able to do it. I mean, let's play here. Oh, we're measuring ROI of compute? I mean, think about it. That's really interesting, and so there's a lot to expand and learn there. So yeah, marketing ops, it's a tall order, and it's gonna be really exciting.
For the folks that aren't watching on YouTube, like, they don't get to see Daryl's growing smile throughout
It's
your
it's too
answer, and he
much.
was just like,
Too
"Let's
much.
go, yeah."
Yeah. I was looking for like a clapping, because on Zoom you could do the clapping, but I guess you can't do it here. But oh my gosh, just the music to my ears of you said marketing ops is no longer a support function. It's now the infrastructure and how the business can achieve their objectives. Well said. Like, I'm just gonna put that on my wall. Well said. Or should be a bumper
That's
sticker. I
great.
don't know.
There you go. It's true. It's
Yeah.
exciting. And
Well
I
said.
mean, we're celebrating the future. Let's also be realistic. That's a big growth area for some folks.
Hmm.
That's a big growth area and big shoes. And I think we can do it. Marketing ops can do it. It's a big opportunity. So take it seriously.
Yeah, Rebecca, we're flying through this interview here, so I wanted to spend a bit of time stepping into the speculative future of marketing for a bit. I'm a big fan of sci-fi, so hopefully this doesn't like border on sci-fi too much, but I wanted to chat about just 10, 15 years into the future. Even like 5 years is really tough to do, but I want to paint a picture for a couple of like sci-fi based ideas here, and I'm curious to get your take on it. One of them you actually kind of teased out a little bit already. So imagine that budget meetings go from negotiating spend to negotiating compute allocation. So lots of smart folks, including GrowthLoop, are actually predicting that marketing is going to move away from specific discrete campaigns towards like continuous algorithmic ops. AI native marketing operation systems like are going to manage budget, creative, performance, cross department tasks, blah blah blah. And your budget meetings might actually involve more about negotiating compute allocation across the company rather than media spend. What do you think?
I think it's happening. It's on its
Mm,
way. I think it's in the not so distant future. I think this is why I encourage CMOs to make sure they understand this. The CMOs, they can manage a budget, have great teams to manage a budget. Do you understand what impacts compute costs? Maybe not yet. That's a big deal. I'm still learning this. This is an area I need to grow. It's a big deal. But I mean, I liked where you pushed before, both of you early in the conversation. We said, like, what percentage of the org will be agents? We'll see. Let's say it's 50%. That's their salary. Compute is your agent's
Hmm.
salary. Are we actually seeing the ROI of that efforts? And I like how you brought up the engine before. GrowthLoop thinks in terms of the compound marketing engine, this iterative improvement. I think that's going to be table stakes in this new world because the new sense of optimization isn't channel optimization; it's optimization of these agents and their output and the impact that they're having. And the way you get leverage is the speed in which that increases over time versus the spend you're spending to actually achieve those outcomes. So it's going to be interesting. We all need to learn. I need to learn. We these data cloud folks are going to be marketers' best friends. Get ready. Get a data cloud tutor fast because we need to learn this.
Yeah, it's actually a cool topic for upcoming episode there. Just wrote that down, like demystifying what compute actually means, the costs behind it. Because when we did the whole like package versus composable CDP series on the show, that was one thing that came up a lot in the arguments. Was like the cost of compute and zero copy data and blah blah blah. So yeah, I appreciate your thoughts there. The other one I had, Rebecca and Daryl, you can take the next one if you want, but this idea of like enterprise wide mesh of agents. One of the hardest areas for AI to take over, we kind of talked about this a little bit already, is like the collaboration and navigating internal politics within your companies. Some folks are actually predicting that at some point, agents are going to be smart enough to reason across functional domains and coordinate decisions across departments. And this one feels like a bit like far off into the future, but we talked about like marketing pods, and imagine they're no longer operating in isolation, but they will be part of this enterprise wide mesh of agents, and they manage pricing, inventory, logistics, customer comms concurrently. So instead of fighting and negotiating for priorities and resources and backlog and having all those meetings, imagine an agent that not just like assists your ad spend, but also realigns things like supply chain orders and finance support for a sudden campaign that you want to do in marketing. What are your thoughts there?
Oh man, well, that is definitely a future-centric view. Uh, my reaction to it, one, I bet a lot of headaches will go away if that's
Mhm.
true. I mean, that's interesting, maybe. Is that good or bad? I'm not sure. Maybe the fact that there are headaches and that collaboration is a sign that it's really crucial to the organization, and thus you don't want to delegate it. I don't know. Or maybe it'll bring harmony. That's interesting. So that's one thought. I really push myself to say believe the future is possible because doing that will help drive innovation, just having that mindset. And with that, and caveat, making decisions across organizations, I'm gonna bet on making recommendations before making decisions. Maybe
Yeah.
they're the
Mm,
ultimate arbitrator. Like, that's great. You know what I mean? Like, oh, maybe that's what brings us the harmony. I'm speaking as an agent. What we recommend in this case is this in order for you to achieve this outcome. And it is the most objective recommendation you could get. So then the humans could make a subjective call, a judgment call. So maybe that. I like in pricing, my goodness, pricing is one of the most strategic levers of an organization. I can see great recommendations, but again, what about like risk taking? Are agents gonna know when to take risks? I don't know. Acting maybe against the rules because it feels right for the customer, but isn't good for the business. Are agents gonna do that? There's a lot of decision making that is ultimately like intentionally imperfect and thus human that I don't know if agents will learn that. And we still need that in business.
Hmm.
yeah. It's I think of it like change management, and you're not going to have AI handle change management for you across an organization, but I do see AI helping the humans very much in improving how change is rolled out across the organization. You know, um, because I think we can just even see that these examples in our personal life, and maybe you all kind of do that too. Like AI is not going to have a conversation with your partner or a conversation with your children for you, but it's going to give you some guidance on how to best navigate some of these conversations, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I don't think it's going to make those decisions. Um, I did want to talk about this one. I wrote my name down on this question because like I'm really curious about this one around the rise of machine customers. And for me, it's like this new thing where agents are also making purchasing decisions and buying, and and it could be not only um at the consumer level but also the business level. And I'm really interested in how kind of you see that changing the way marketing is done. Does that change like the profession entirely? And like how does that change the way that we think about business strategies and approaching these kind of things? Maybe you could riff on that a little bit.
Yeah, two opinions there. First, I can't wait as a consumer and as a busy professional and mom. I can't wait. That will
Mm.
be great. That will be great. I'm very pro that. I also am pro it because then what will make it through? We think like marketers. We're thinking in terms of how do we get our commercial gains? What will make it through? That agent is going to be representing that person. It's going to say, I will only let through what is going to serve my person best. So I think it will be a forcing function again to make marketing is in service of the person as best as possible. And I like that. I like that as a forcing function. So I think it's a great thing. We'll see what it looks like in reality, and how much consumers like relinquishing some control. Again, is it recommendations versus decisions? I'm not quite sure. Probably recommendations. All of it's going to be a recommendation phase. And I think it will be a good forcing function to keep marketers thinking in a customer centric way.
Yeah. I think that the fear becomes like, are many of the interactions between business and customer and business going to be agent talking to agent, and then they start to go in circles? You know,
Mm.
I wonder if I wonder if that's a fear. And like you said too, like, hey, I'm my AI agent is going to have it like vet all of the requests or all of the marketing coming into my inbox. But then marketers have an agent trying to circumvent all of those guards. So I think that that's the part that I kind of worry about. Do you worry about that too, or like it sounds like your take is more optimistic, and I'm all for that.
Well, first, I'm an optimist by nature. I always, I nearly always be a discerning optimist. I think of the other side. My goodness, if I think of what I likely miss in my email, I bet there are actually
Mm.
good things I need
Yeah.
that I miss in my email because I don't have this service, this agent
Yeah.
supporting me. So I think it will, because right now I ignore out of just necessity. So I wonder if actually we'll bring forward, you might need this. This serves you based off of what I know about you and what you've said that you needed and so on and so forth. So we'll see. It's the matter of control. Can consumers relinquish some control in order to take the help?
Super cool. Rebecca, the conversation has flown by. I appreciate you letting us veer into the speculative future of AI a little bit here. I feel like we didn't speculate too much. Like your answers were kind of like, yeah, I can see that happening, or some of this stuff's like percolating already. So yeah, some fun things to folks to think about and ponder as they think about their channel specialist role and what life cycle kind of looks like there. So appreciate your thoughts. We got one last question for you, Rebecca. You're obviously a VP of marketing, marketing advisor. You're one of the first 50 employees at HubSpot. You're also a writer, a musician, and singer. You're also a acapreneur, a mom of two boys. You got a ton of stuff going on the side. One question we ask everyone on the show is, how do you remain happy and successful in your career? And how do you find balance between all the things you're working on while staying happy?
Yeah, well, first, every gig I've selected in a career standpoint, I work with people who I love and who push me. And you spend so much time at work, you need that. And so I'm really thrilled I have that at GrowthLoop. I love the people I work at GrowthLoop. I love our vision at GrowthLoop. So that keeps me very fulfilled. I love my family. We all do. I love my family. I work hard for my family, for my boys. And so that's great. And I love being creative. I
Yeah.
love being creative, and it's fun being a creative that also is excited about this AI future. Sounds like it could contradict. I don't think it does. I prepared for this conversation using AI in this very collaborative, creative way. It was awesome. It was great. And so being creative makes me happy, whether it be being creative through my music or my singing, being creative and helping my boys think creatively. So that's really key, and that really gets me going, and it's important.
Awesome. I appreciate your time, Rebecca. This is super fun. We'll link out to some of the reports that GrowthLoop has coming out. We talked about the one that you guys did already, but the AI performance index is the one that we chatted about. But there's another one your team is working on. I think is releasing around this time, around like the state of teams and in the future that we kind of talked about a lot today. So appreciate all the thoughts you're doing with the team and helping future-proof the humans of Martech out there. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Talk soon.